Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking exactly how Cardano is leveling up for some serious institutional adoption. We're going to look way past the surface level of basic transactions and peer into the truly hidden layers of enterprise blockchain logic. If you've ever wondered how billions of dollars in institutional capital can actually interface with a decentralized network securely, well, you're in the exact right place. Let's get started.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at the enterprise gap, access versus control, the Cardano Vault, the power of MPC, pre-chain auditability, and finally, institutional participation. Think of today's explainer like a giant iceberg. We're diving deep beneath the surface of basic crypto transactions to uncover that massive hidden layer of enterprise logic.
All right, part one, the enterprise blockchain gap. Let's look at retail versus enterprise.
Okay, let's dive into this. You see, Iagon are the developers who, teaming up with digital asset custody giant Fireblocks, are actively building the necessary infrastructure bridge for these big institutions. They recognized a massive hurdle right away. Cardano already works wonderfully for individual users, but if you're a treasury, a huge custodian, a massive crypto fund, or a heavily regulated fintech app, a standard digital wallet simply doesn't cut it. You literally need something fundamentally different.
Think about it. A retail digital wallet is built entirely for individual access. It's awesome for you or me sending some ADA while lounging on the couch. But an enterprise? They operate under an intense regulatory microscope. They absolutely need complex vaults, rigid policies, and deep, rock-solid auditability. They simply cannot function without these enterprise requirements baked right into their daily workflows.
Which brings us to Section 2, access versus true control. This is the real hurdle.
So the crucial takeaway here is that the technical availability of a network, that's not the main issue. The gap isn't access, it's control. A blockchain being online and functional is literally just the baseline. The real hurdle for a regulated business is having absolute, ironclad control over exactly how their assets move, who moves them, and under what specific conditions.
And this brilliantly illustrates the problem. Let's run a rapid-fire simulation of what happens when a highly regulated compliance team tries to move funds. First question. Who can even initiate this transaction? In retail, well, it's just you. But in an enterprise, is it a junior trader, a treasury manager, some automated script? The system absolutely has to mathematically verify exactly who pushed that first button.
But hey, initiation is just step one. Next up, who actually has to approve it? A business might require this complex, multi-tiered internal approval logic. Maybe a transaction under 10 grand just needs one manager sign-off. But a transfer of $10 million? No way. That requires the CFO and the chief compliance officer to physically approve it, and that logic has to be rigidly enforced by the software itself.
And finally, what gets blocked and which internal policy triggered that block? If a transaction tries to hit a sanctioned address or blows past a daily withdrawal limit, the system has to forcefully shut it down. This exact sequence of questioning is precisely where basic crypto wallets completely fall apart for regulated businesses. They just aren't built to answer these questions or enforce these kinds of policies.
Moving on to Section 3. Enter the Cardano Vault, the SDK solution.
So the crucial point is, what exactly is it? Well, the Cardano Vault is an SDK, a software development kit that extends Fireblocks' existing wallet capabilities. It basically unlocks Cardano native operations right inside an institution's existing workflow. This isn't just some shiny new interface for sending ADA, it's a highly engineered bridge bringing Cardano directly into the incredibly strict control environments that Wall Street absolutely demands.
So what does this SDK actually let them do? Behind the scenes, Iagon Insight provides the heavy-lifting API layer. Because of this, institutions aren't just limited to basic transfers anymore. They get the whole shebang, handling native assets, executing complex multi-asset transfers, and, crucially, fully engaging with Conway-era governance functionality. All of this is happening seamlessly inside the strict compliance parameters they've already set up.
All right, Section 4, the power of MPC. Let's talk cryptographic security. The absolute bedrock of this whole system is MPC, or multi-party computation. MPC fundamentally wipes out the single point of failure. Imagine a traditional crypto wallet. If someone gets your seed phrase, they have everything. For a billion-dollar enterprise, relying on one person, one physical device, or a single recovery phrase is a complete non-starter. MPC mathematically distributes the authority to sign a transaction across multiple parties and devices, meaning no single entity ever holds the full key. It's incredibly secure. And this MPC approach yields massive benefits for a flexible operating model. It gives you one unified signing framework across completely different blockchains. Crucially, it keeps all that sensitive internal approval logic safely off-chain, totally protecting corporate privacy. And perhaps most importantly for a business, it provides stable vault addresses. Even if your entire treasury team turns over, the vault address remains totally secure and consistent, governed by policy-based controls that dictate different rules for different assets, amounts, and destinations.
Which takes us to Section 5, Beyond the Block Explorer. Let's look at pre-chain auditability.
You know, in the blockchain space, we are totally obsessed with what gets permanently recorded on the public ledger. But for a compliance or audit team inside a regulated business, the data that never actually makes it to the blockchain is often the most critical information of all. The least visible layer is honestly the most important one.
Now, what's really interesting about this contrast is looking at on-chain transparency versus pre-chain auditability. On-chain transparency is great, right? The Block Explorer shows you every successful transaction. But what about a transaction that gets rejected internally, or blocked by a compliance policy, or one that just failed before it was ever even submitted to the network? To the public Block Explorer, it's like it never happened. But by law, an institution needs a complete, rock-solid, auditable record of the full life cycle of that failed action. Who initiated it, why it was blocked, and which exact policy triggered that block. The Cardano Vault integration ensures all of this crucial pre-chain data is rigorously captured and completely auditable.
And finally, Section 6, Unlocking Institutional Participation.
When massive institutions enter a network, their assets usually just sit there in cold storage or highly restricted custody vaults. But institutional ADA absolutely should not become passive dead weight on the network. A healthy proof-of-stake blockchain like Cardano literally relies on the active, long-term participation of its token holders to secure the network and actually steer governance decisions.
And that is exactly why the Cardano Vault integration is such a massive leap forward. Because it wires so deeply into the blockchain's native architecture, it finally allows these tightly regulated institutions to actively participate. Right from their highly secure vaults, they can now engage in staking to secure the network, safely withdraw their staking rewards, and dive into complex voting and deregulated governance flows without ever compromising a single enterprise control standard.
Let's move to and see how this builds to a truly critical realization. If institutional ADA holders cannot participate through systems they trust, their role in the ecosystem remains incomplete. True institutional readiness isn't just letting Wall Street buy and hold a token in a static vault somewhere. It's handing them the real cryptographic tools to securely vote, stake, and steer the network. So as these enterprise bridges finally go live, the real question isn't just how much capital institutions are going to bring to Cardano, it's how their newfound voting power will fundamentally reshape the very future of decentralized governance itself.